It's a lot of fun, it's just people have enthusiasm for this kind of stuff, and we just try to put that enthusiasm right on the front page.
Hugely important, you understand, particularly for bringing youngsters into the hard sciences, which is, robotics and things like that. One of my concerns as an old man is making sure that youngsters are smart enough and are being led into some of the hard choices that, on which our civilization depends. When you hear the Chinese, for instance, and this is not an anti-Chinese remark, please, but when the Chinese are graduating, 1.25 million engineers every year, you realize that if the West wants to stay in the game, we've got to up our ante, really.
Yeah, it's this kind of stuff that I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and it's because of all this stuff where she wants to build robots, actually, exactly, and so we're finding a science academy to send her and things like that. So, and it's this sort of culture, I think, that brought her to that.
Excellent. That's really good. I have a 6-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And I can't say that she's showing any real technological interest at all, I think, but she likes to read, she likes to write, and perhaps what I should do is move her from the little village school where she is in New Zealand to a place where there are more technological challenges. But she's basically a country girl at the moment.
That's not a bad thing either, though.
Absolutely not.
So, as we come to these things, you seem sort of an icon in geek culture, I would say.
Isn't that odd? How do you become an icon? I mean, if you started off like saying, I want to become an icon, I mean, what's the road plan? What is there's a special word for it in planning organization. What's the critical path, right, isn't it, to geekdom?
But I mean, you've done James Bond, you've done video games like Wing Commander, which I greatly enjoyed as a kid, and not just Indiana Jones and the Lord of the Rings.
I think basically what you're saying.
Marvel movies.
I think what you're saying is I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
And I've never had disdain for whatever media I had the opportunity to work in. There's some people. I mean, in the old days, stage actors would refuse to work in television and film because they were essentially vulgar. You can't do that. I mean, I think, frankly, unless you are one of 2 or 3 really exceptional actors, you should basically do everything. Our job is to make things work. We are given certain challenges. There you are. That's the deal. Make it work. And even if we can't make it work, we grow and learn as we do it. Sometimes you realize that there's no way of saving this. Other times you think, well, and you find a way through it. But it's only by challenges that you grow. It's only by work, that you know how to work. Acting is an exercise. It's like a muscle, and if you don't use it, it'll atrophy. And by working on it, you may get better. And I certainly need to get better. So I work at anything.
So is that, you haven't specifically sought out, all these sorts of roles. It was just what came to you, and you decided what would be challenging and went for that?
Oh, how elevated that sounds, how purposeful. The truth of the matter is, I like work. I always tell people that one of the 2 great secrets of life is that you should find something that you like doing. You like it so much that you do it all day and every day for the rest of your life, and then find someone to pay you a lot of money to do it. If you've got that cracked, you've got one of the 2 great secrets of life sorted. This is a family show, and I can't tell you what the second is, but you take my point. I'm one of those lucky man who wakes up in the morning and thinks, oh, I'm going to work. I mean, how wonderful is that, you know? Retire? What do you mean, retire? Not until they damn well carry me away on a trolley. Actually, it won't happen like that. It actually happens that the phone call doesn't happen today, and it doesn't happen tomorrow, and it doesn't happen, and the time between phone calls gets longer and longer and longer, and you will never know when the last phone call has happened, because you're always waiting for that next call. And that's how our careers end. And that measure of insecurity is damning for some people. How do you cope? I happen to know what I shall be doing, you know, probably for the next 3 months. There's a sequence of things I will be doing. But after that, what then? There is no reason why anyone in the world should employ John Rhys-Davies. I think we've seen enough of him. Thank you very much. He's too old now. Yeah, let him go. There are new talents coming along. What we want is not John Rhys-Davies, we want a John Rhys-Davies type. And I've seen that on call sheets as well, a casting list. I won't know when that happens. So my particular way around it is I try now to treat every job as if it is my last one. You know, today is the last day I'm going to work. So I'm going to behave myself. I'm going to get through the day. I'm going to be nice to people. You know, it's my swan song. You know, this is it. If it ends today, then I'll have ended on a note of grace. Oh, please don't let it end just yet.
One thing I want to ask you about, I think a lot of people hail Raiders of the Lost Ark as one of the masterpieces in American cinema.
It is.
And you know, one thing you hear over and over again about that film is the breakneck pace at which it was filmed. You know, I'm wondering if you could tell me of any, you know, give me some wonderful anecdote about your days there.
That no one else has ever heard before. You know,
I won't go that far, but
this mine has been deep mined for 30 years, isn't it? The truth of the matter is that very early on, Stephen called us together and said, look, I want to shoot this very fast, partly because it's my friend George Lucas's money. I don't want to waste it. And also partly because I, as a director, need to try something different, to shoot fast. Is that sometimes I've gone to 50, 60 takes, and then when I see what I want, I say, right, print that one. And people have said to me, well, what was so different between take 4 and that? Now, I can see the difference, but clearly they can't. This time, we will print first and second takes. Sometimes we will print mistakes. But what I'm hoping we're going to get is a freshness and an immediacy. We're going to throw the paint on the canvas, work it quickly before it dries, and move on. And he said, I think for a story like this, if we do this, good things may happen. And that smart man, Stephen, was absolutely right. It was a blast to do, and it becomes... When I first read the script, my agent asked me what I thought, and I said, this is either going to be the biggest disaster of all times, or it might just set a new fashion in filmmaking. But whatever, I want in. I get it right sometimes, you know.
So was it, would you say that was more challenging for you or less, having to be there on the spot and know you have to nail it within a couple of takes?
Well, I was fairly young and fairly innocent about this. I'd done a lot of stage work and a lot of Shakespeare and stuff like that. So I didn't know better. Look, my job is to try and deliver whatever the director wants. Try and service the script. Try and service my fellow actors. To a greater or lesser extent, you do it. And if you're lucky and you do it consistently, then there's another job. There's no great career plan for most actors, you know. We are more children of serendipity or blighted by disaster than we ever recognize.
What?
Any achievement, of course, is mine.
Indeed.
But fate has got nothing to do with it.
What was it like seeing the character catch on the way it did, and having you come back for another movie, and things like, having your action figure made, or you can't go to Disneyland without seeing films of you through the Indiana Jones experience there.
It's very odd, isn't it? I'm not one. I'm not one particularly to dwell much on the past. I tend not to go back. There are a lot of things I've done that I've never even seen. I mean, that's not deliberate avoidance, though some of them I should definitely have deliberately avoided.
I've heard stories.
Dear me. Oh, dear me. Yes, well, anyway. But it is rather odd. Rather fun for your children. But it is rather odd. The terrible thing is it Heathcote Pearson? It's one of the Heathcotes anyway, who said that fame is a perversion of the human need for validation and attention. We all need it. You and I both need, somebody to say, gosh, you did really well there. Oh, I did really well. Makes our day glow, doesn't it? But the point at which, oh my God, you're the best in the universe, you're the best in the world. I've seen so many of my fellow actors, well, not so many, a number of my fellow actors succumb to that because they mistranslate. When people come up to you and tell you you're wonderful, all they mean is, oh, I recognize you. I like what you've done. I hope you like me. That's what, oh, you're the best in the world. You are just fabulous means. If you translate it like that, you're safe. It's a gesture of friendliness. If you translate it as, I'm the best in the world, I am one of the greatest actors in the world, then you can see the next thing emerging in people. So what the hell am I doing talking to you losers? It's translation, and always translate to the humblest form.
You want me to wrap up, so I'll ask...
Women are like that, aren't they?
I know.
They're such termagants,
What, well, I wanted to ask about the Flying Tigers, actually.
Ah, glad you asked. Bill MacDonald, who has written and is producing this, is a marvelous writer. He was one of the founding geniuses, in fact, possibly the founding genius of the series Rome. The Chenault story is one of the great untold stories of the Second World War. Now, of course, that he's written it, he is under enormous pressure from talentless people who wish to remove him from the thing and take over the project. I hope that it happens. It should happen. I hope that Harrison may well be going to do it. I hope he does. But these, the decisions for this rest in the hands of a bunch of people who may or may not have the show's best interest in heart. What they have is their best interest in heart. And my hope is that that this does succeed, because this is a great story. It's one of those very odd moments of real cooperation between the Chinese and the Americans. Our history with China has not been an honorable one. China was the only source of tea. The Chinese demanded silver to be paid for their tea. The British and the Americans wanted tea. They paid silver. But slowly, the world's silver resources were running out. Silver bullion was becoming hard to find. And some bastard had the idea that we needed to create a counterflow. The British grew opium in India, And the British and the Americans and the Dutch and the French introduced opium into China and made about 49 million opium addicts. Of course, opium has to be bought with silver or something like that, so, you know, the trade cycle got going. But it is one of the most disgraceful episodes of human history. And the Chinese have long memories, and they're right to have long memories. But this is one of those great moments when, in fact, China and America work together. And the Chinese effort cannot be underestimated. There were probably 1 million people involved in the supply lines for the Flying Tigers, rolling barrels of aviation fuel, you know, uphill, down dale in order to get it to those moving airfields that Chennault was doing. Chennault himself is a supreme tactician, arguably the best aviation tactician of that war, arguably of all time. It's a great story, and by God, it's going to be told.
I can't wait. My secret weakness is World War II films, so.
Well, why is it important? Why is the Second World War important? The Second World is important because really, it's about good and evil. You know, National Socialism was unquestionably a malevolent and destructive force. And Nazism in Europe was destroyed as a result of our Allied efforts. Really, yes, there are still some little recurrences. The insane man who is judged sane in Norway being one of them. There are still some of these neo-Nazis alive, but Nazism as a political force is over. It's ended. It's finished. We ought to be damn proud of that. And the people who won that battle, you know, have a real claim to be seen as the great generation, the greatest generation. And what they endured and suffered, often with an inarticulated distress, is unimaginable and should be commemorated and honored forever.
Agreed.
Very well.
You're a wonderful raconteur, sir.
Oh, forgive me. You do realize